Hey guys, it's Lindsay at the blog Repurpose and Upcycle, and I want to show you about this buffet makeover. Now, this is not a very high quality piece of furniture, so I was very limited with what I could do. You can see I don't even know where that crack came from. But the first thing I did was obviously I had to remove the mirrors. And once I removed the mirrors, I decided I wanted to replace that with pole wrap. Pole wrap is really simple to work with. You can see I'm just using a miter saw to cut it horizontally, and then I'll use just a simple blade to cut it vertically. And pole wrap is kind of like the up and coming new thing. Now it's not cheap. You can see this entire piece of pole wrap was about $85 shipped. So it's not going to cover real far, but I thought it would be a good addition to replace the mirrors with. So behind the mirrors, there was that black backing, and I'm just using that black backing to attach the pole wrap with and to also be able to attach that back into the cabinet. You can also see I'm just using a wood glue. You can use a construction adhesive, anything to just attach the pole wrap to that heavy duty cardboard. This is my first time using pole wrap. It's really simple to use. I'd like to use it again, but like I said, the only issue it is very costly depending on how much you need. Once the panels were cut and secured to the heavy duty cardboard, I decided I was just going to paint them. And I was going to paint them manually with a paintbrush just to make sure I could get into the pole wrap grooves. I've done this before where I've had some sort of molding and I just tried to spray it, and I didn't feel like I could really get in the grooves. So this way I wanted to go ahead before I attached it to the cabinet to really paint it with the paint I thought I was going to use, just to really get in the grooves. So when I went with a second coat, it would look really finished. Now, interestingly enough, so I painted the entire panels with the paint. I waited till they dried, I attached them into the cabinet, and then I decided just to hand paint the first coat onto the entire cabinet. So the paint I used was a Paint Plus primer product, and my thought with that was, well, if I like the color, great, I'll just put 2 coats on there and I should be good to go. But if I want to do something else, this can act as the primer base. But either way, I needed to put a primer coat on it. So this kind of acted as my primer product too. So I really got ahead of myself here. I originally intended to spray this entire piece with primer product and the final coat, but I decided, you know what, I didn't love the color, so I was just going to paint the first coat just to even see, which honestly, after it was on there, after I put the panels back in the cabinet, I took a step back and realized I really didn't like it. So I kind of had to go to the drawing board again and decide what I was going to do. So I did get out the paint sprayer this time, and I decided to go with just a generic white. And so this is just a cabinet and trim white paint. And I did water it down a little bit. I always water, well, most of the time, I water down my paint when I put it in a paint sprayer. I've just had trouble in the past with tons of different types of paint with it clogging the paint sprayer, so I do put a little bit of water in there. And so you can see I just sprayed this onto the cabinet just to see. You really can't go wrong with white when you're redoing furniture. So I decided to give that a good spray coat, and since the previous paint, the green paint, acted as a primer product, I knew I'd be okay. Once the white paint was dry, I decided to add a little dimension to the top and go with like a faux wood finish. So I gave it a quick scuff sanding on the top. I wiped it down, did a lint-free cloth, and then I used the Toasted Oak by Heirloom Traditions. I've used this before and I loved it. This is a gel stain. And the cool thing is, even if it's faux wood, it gives it that real wood look. And the wood on this is, it's not real wood, and it has a very textured finish, and it even has a faux wood grain on top. So I thought if I used this and if I could get it to really pull that wood grain out, I could really fake a faux wood finish. Now here, I tried to use a wood graining tool, and I've done that in the past very successfully, but the wood graining tool just didn't work very good, and I think it was because this isn't super smooth. Really, the wood graining tool works well when you can, when you're on a really smooth surface. So I ended up putting 2 coats on. Hindsight, I wish I had stuck with 1 coat because I thought 1 coat worked and looked better. But you can see I went ahead and put 2 coats on there, And then after the second coat, I did go back and do some more like scuff sanding, really to bring out the that faux wood grain. So once it dried, you can see here, here's where I'm taking that scanner again and really just trying to give it that faux wood grain looking finish. And I'm going to give you a close-up here in a second so you can see where it really is textured, and I'm loving the way it looks. The last thing I did was add hardware, and overall this piece has turned out honestly better than I expected, because after I started this, I just didn't know. I was a little disappointed when I painted it green, but overall I think it's going to be beautiful, and I think it's worked out.